Hey folks, so it's the 12th of May and another new comic book day. Today I just went out to get the next issue of Geiger. I didn't review Geiger 1 as I didn't have a chance, but Geiger was a fantastic first issue and there's a lot of people excited about it. It wasn't on my radar when it was first released, so it was a kind of happy surprise for me. So I decided definitely I need to go out and get issue number 2. I've also picked up Time Before Time. I'm going to do a review of that maybe later on this week. I've read about half of it and yeah, it's really great. Really enjoying it so far. So look out for that when the time comes. So Geiger, just in case you've not read it before, is basically the story of a man who and his family who experience, a kind of apocalyptic event, I guess. There's nuclear bombs are dropped on the States, and we don't know too much about it further than that. But in the process, this particular person who ends up the main character, Geiger, tries to save his family by getting them into a bunker or a shelter to save them from nuclear bombs and the ultimate fallout. Unfortunately, he's not able to save himself, and he ends up basically becoming radioactive, I guess, or something similar to that. And we basically learn that he's been waiting outside this bunker so that he can finally see his family again. And we don't know how many years he's spent outside the bunker waiting. But during this time, he's kind of developed, particular abilities. One of them is that he glows, and he's obviously, extremely strong. And in this story, in issue 2, we kind of start exploring that world a little bit more. So there's a lot more to the first issue, but definitely, go out and get it. This particular video is going to focus on issue 2. And so in issue 2, we kind of pick off where we left before, which is a scene where we come across this kind of casino, which seems to be, I guess, like a village. There's like a community of people that stay in this casino, and they're kind of dressed like kind of kings and queens and that kind of thing. And it's a kind of like whole other world, which is in the future, but where everybody dresses several hundred years into the past. The front cover for issue 2 is really cool. Again, we can see Geiger there, the main character, glowing, as I just mentioned, and he's kind of adopted this kind of cape. So, I mean, at the moment, he's not strictly a superhero. At least we don't know that yet in the kind of traditional sense, maybe. But obviously, by the way everything's illustrated, we can kind of get the idea that is maybe going that way. And he's kind of fighting off these giant ants, which I don't think we saw in the first issue, but must play an important part in this particular storyline. We get a bit of a backstory to Geiger before the nuclear event happened, and in the opening page, we just kind of jump straight into it. We find out that when he was diagnosed with cancer, and we can see here that we eventually get his full name. So his full name is Tarek Geiger. It's kind of weird that his surname is Geiger. I assumed it was something to do with, for example, you've got a kind of Geiger count related to radioactivity. So I thought it was something to do with that. Maybe it is, and we kind of find that out as the story goes along. But yeah, his name is Tarek Geiger, and we basically find out that he had cancer before the event. I think it was before the event. And the radiation that he's experienced instead of killing him, the combination of this and his cancer seems to have, well, somehow have benefited him, maybe. And it seems to be making him stronger. It says here, it wasn't the radiation that kept Geiger's heart beating. And then goes on to say that it was actually his family. So I guess it's a combination of both. And that answers why, he's still alive while most people are dead or living in bunkers or some kind of shelter in the meantime. The kind of opening scenes are two characters which are riding towards this casino in the first issue. And without going into too much detail, because there's a kind of a lot to pack in here, we basically find out that these two characters are kind of trying to deliver an artifact that the king, who kind of, I guess, owns this particular casino, is very interested in, and he's been interested in it for a long time. However, we don't really find out, I think throughout the entirety of this issue, we don't really find out exactly what this artifact is and what it means and why he wants it. But when these two characters go to deliver it, they kind of first introduce it to this soldier. I guess he's some kind of a soldier who, is underneath the king of the casino. And at first he doesn't believe that they've managed to source this particular artifact, but it turns out that it's legitimate. And again, as we go even further into the book, we're just introduced to more and more characters. So I can't go into detail about every single one, but in this particular case, and probably the most important characters in terms of the rest of the issue, is that we've got this family. I believe it's mother, sister and son. I might be wrong about that. I didn't quite pick it up, but I need to reread this part and really find out. But I think it's the sister who basically steals this artifact and decides to leave the casino with the artifact and comes up with a kind of escape plan where they can escape this community and kind of travel to where on the map, which I guess is east of Las Vegas, is a kind of sanctuary of some sort, but we're not really sure about that. And this is all actually happening in the kind of kitchen of the casino, which is where they work. But anyway, the soldier comes across, it basically figures out that somebody's stolen the artifact, and it actually gives us an insight into the kind of community we're dealing with in this casino, because they are really quite brutal. They don't really stop at kind of holding off to discuss the issue. Basically, the mother ends up being killed essentially straight away by this soldier, while I think it must be the sister and brother hide under a table. But once that's over, they end up going through with this kind of escape plan. So they manage to steal Hamzat suits. They have a key card. They manage to get access to one of the car parks. They steal a car and then head outside. And at this point, in the story, we kind of learn that outside the casino and outside the bunkers is radioactive and they really shouldn't be there. But as they're trying to escape, they come across these giant ants, and this is where we are basically reintroduced to Geiger in his full glowing form. And basically he fights off these ants. He basically says that they need to go. They shouldn't be outside because there's ants that are actually even bigger than this, which is pretty frightening. But I found this particular page, which is my favourite, I found it to be quite funny. He says, before you go, have you got any good books on you? And I guess it's quite interesting the way they do that. So you've got Geiger Tarek Geiger in his kind of current form, where he's kind of, he now has this ability. He glows. He's super strong, and this is a kind of reference almost to like his past life. And I actually think, I might be wrong, but in issue 1 he actually mentions about books in a kind of previous altercation. So it makes me wonder, maybe in my mind at the moment, what I'm thinking is that he's just kind of fighting in this world of after kind of nuclear fallout, but still obviously just kind of retains his previous personality, in the sense that that's not changed. I guess he's still a family man, and his main goal actually is just to make sure his family, which is his wife and his son or daughter, are safe. So we see that he has these abilities. He's like super strong, and he's getting into fights, but you get this sense that there's like an underlying goodness about him, about his previous life, that he still retains, even though he's got this current form. And of course, he's helped the family who had this problem with these giant ants, and he's got them out of a very difficult situation. So what I'm curious about in the next issues, or the coming issues, is, I really want to find more about Geiger instead of him, just being this elusive character, which he is to pretty much everybody else in the book. And it would be nice to kind of explore the depth of that personality. So hopefully we get more insight into that as we kind of go along. But anyway, we kind of return to the casino, or I think it's part of the casino, but it's some kind of like castle, Camelot. And this is where we kind of return to somebody we saw in the first issue, which is the king of this, entire area or enclosure or whatever you want to call it. And I think what happened in the first issue was that he wanted to find this particular artifact, which is what I think was being delivered in this issue to the castle. And now we see that he's returned to the casino, and his face is completely ripped apart. You can actually see the kind of imprint of a hand across his face. So, and we basically find out as the story goes along that was Geiger. So he's obviously kind of like ripped with his hand, ripped the flesh off of the king's face. So we learn that he now has to wear a mask, actually. So definitely want to know what happened during that particular like fight or whatever happened. We might actually kind of get more insight into that in the next issue. It would be pretty cool if we got a bit of a flashback to it. So anyway, it pretty much kind of wraps up there. We do have a couple of interesting last pages. So these pages seem to be classified documents of Tarek Geiger, and it's his patient files. It's quite interesting because I think Geiger looks pretty old there, but when you turn the page, it actually says the patient is 32 years old. So maybe he's just had a tough life. Maybe that's just what ends up happening when you're kind of when you've got a family to look after. But basically, these are classified files talking about how that he had tumours, and that it was a strong probability that he was likely going to die. But we learned here that his organs aren't shutting down, and there's a little post-it note to say they're changing into something else. So the tumours have actually developed into something. And yeah, it would be interesting to know the kind of ins and outs of what that actually is. So that's the end of issue 2. Like I said, there's a lot to unpack on it. You can really see that the storyline is really unfolding. I think we're kind of getting set up for, some interesting issues coming up after this. So there's a lot to kind of really grip you. And it's not a surprise that this particular series has had so much great feedback. A lot of people online, if you kind of look anywhere, it's hard to find any kind of fault in this particular storyline so far. So, yeah, that's it from the second issue. So go out and get them if you get a chance. And in a couple of days, I'm going to review Time Before Time, and definitely tune in for that. So I've only got 9 subscribers at the moment, which is a shame, but I've only just set up this channel. If you do like it, definitely give it a subscribe, please. I think you can press the bell, something like that, and you can get an alert when I come out with a new video. Give it a like, and I really love to hear comments, especially from other kind of YouTubers that are also reviewing comics, because I like to kind of be part of the discussion and get other people's opinions. Hopefully this channel will continue to grow. My speaking will get a little bit better, and I'll try and make it a bit more fun and concise. But until then, that's it for this week, and see you next time.